Judge mocks black woman in court, shocked to learn she's a genius attorney in disguise. The judge leaned back in his chair, a smirk tugging at the corners of his lips as he addressed the modestly dressed black woman standing before him. His voice dripped with condescension, questioning her every word. The room echoed with stifled chuckles from the gallery. To them, she was just another defendant, unimportant, out of her depth, and easy to dismiss. But what no one realized was that she wasn't who they thought she was. Beneath her calm exterior lay a brilliant mind, a secret she had kept hidden for the perfect moment. And when that moment came, it would leave the courtroom and the judge reeling. #### the courtroom showdown. The Jefferson County Courthouse was bustling that morning, its wide marble halls echoing with hurried footsteps and murmured conversations. The heavy oak doors to courtroom 4C creaked open, allowing in a diverse crowd of litigants, lawyers, and spectators. The air smelled faintly of wood polish and tension. For most people, it was just another day. But for Olivia Carter, it was a pivotal moment she had meticulously prepared for. Dressed in a simple navy blue suit that had seen better days, Olivia stepped inside quietly. Her dark curls framed a calm yet determined face, and she clutched a worn leather briefcase with both hands as if anchoring herself in the charged atmosphere. She moved toward the defense table, her footsteps soft but purposeful. Around her, eyes flickered with curiosity and, in some cases, dismissal. "Next case," boomed the voice of Judge Robert Calloway. He sat elevated behind the imposing bench, his black robes pristine, glasses perched low on his nose. Calloway was a man accustomed to authority, and his demeanor made it clear he enjoyed every ounce of it. His reputation for being sharp-tongued and occasionally abrasive preceded him, though few dared to challenge him. When Olivia's case was called, she straightened her back and approached the bench with quiet confidence. As she did, she noticed the judge's sharp blue eyes sweep over her. A fleeting expression of disapproval crossed his face, so brief it might have gone unnoticed by most. But Olivia caught it. "Miss Carter," Judge Calloway drawled, dragging out her name with exaggerated formality. "You're representing yourself today, I see." "Yes, Your Honor," Olivia replied, her voice steady and respectful. Calloway leaned back in his chair, folding his hands, as a condescending smile tugged at the corner of his lips. "Very well. This should be interesting." The courtroom chuckled lightly at his tone. Olivia's jaw tightened, but she remained silent, refusing to rise to the bait. #### the unraveling begins. The plaintiff's attorney, a middle-aged man named Peter Whitman, stood to present his case. He wore an expensive gray suit that gleamed under the fluorescent lights, a stark contrast to Olivia's understated attire. His voice was polished, almost rehearsed, as he outlined his client's grievances. Olivia listened intently, her face unreadable. Occasionally, she jotted notes in a small notebook, her handwriting precise and neat. Every now and then, her eyes flicked up to meet the judge's, holding his gaze for a moment before returning to her work. It wasn't defiance, it was quiet determination. When it was Olivia's turn, she rose and adjusted her papers, her movements deliberate and calm. The room seemed to still as she began to speak. "Your Honor." Opposing counsel's argument rests on several misrepresentations of fact, which I will address in due course, she said. Her voice was firm but measured, carrying a subtle authority that made people lean forward to listen. "First, I would like to draw the court's attention to—" "Miss Carter," Judge Calloway interrupted, holding up a hand. "I trust you're aware this isn't a classroom lecture. Keep it concise." Olivia paused, her expression unchanging. "Of course, Your Honor. I was simply laying the foundation for my argument." Calloway waved her on dismissively. "Proceed, but let's not get lost in the weeds, shall we?" The courtroom chuckled again, louder this time. Olivia inhaled deeply, steadying herself. She had faced moments like this before, when prejudice was cloaked in professionalism, when her capabilities were dismissed before she had even spoken. But today, she would not be deterred. As Olivia continued, she began to weave a meticulous argument, pointing out flaws in the plaintiff's evidence with quiet precision. Her tone was patient, almost surgical, as she dissected their claims. "Objection, Your Honor." Whitman interrupted, his voice edged with annoyance. "She's speculating. I am merely pointing out inconsistencies in the evidence presented," Olivia replied, her tone unflappable. She turned to Judge Calloway. "Your Honor, I would like to request that Exhibit B be examined for authenticity." The judge sighed audibly, tapping his gavel lightly against the bench. "Miss Carter, this is not the time to play detective. Stick to the facts." "With respect, Your Honor," Olivia said, her voice unwavering. "Authenticity is a fact, and it's relevant to the case." For a moment, the room was silent. The only sound was the soft scratch of the judge's pen against his notes. Calloway's jaw tightened, and he narrowed his eyes at Olivia, clearly unaccustomed to being challenged so directly. "Fine," he said at last, his tone clipped, "but make it quick. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag the moment of truth." By the time the court adjourned for the day, the room was buzzing with murmurs. Spectators whispered about the unexpected turn of events, and even Whitman avoided Olivia's gaze as he gathered his papers. Olivia packed her briefcase slowly, her movements unhurried despite the day's intensity. The next morning, the courthouse was abuzz. Word of the dramatic revelations in courtroom 4C had spread, drawing curious onlookers and even a few reporters. Olivia arrived early, her demeanor unchanged. She walked into the courtroom with the same quiet focus, her briefcase in hand. As the proceedings resumed, she introduced the final piece of evidence, her father's will, proving her rightful ownership of the property in question. Gasps rippled through the courtroom as Judge Calloway reviewed the document, his expression grim. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "This court finds in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's case is dismissed." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Olivia exhaled slowly, allowing herself a small, victorious smile. She had won, not just the case, but the respect of those who had doubted her. As the courtroom emptied, Judge Calloway lingered, watching Olivia with a thoughtful expression. Later that day, as she left the courthouse, he approached her. "Miss Carter," he said hesitantly, "you presented an extraordinary case. I underestimated you. That was a mistake." Olivia regarded him for a moment before replying, "It wasn't just me you underestimated, Your Honor. It was the truth." With that, she walked away, her head held high. The underestimated woman, the hidden genius, had turned the tables and proved that justice, when fought for with determination, could prevail against all odds.